They knew what they were doing was wrong. They knew what they were doing was risking great danger to Mr. Perry, but they did it anyways.
Nearly a year after the death of Friends star Matthew Perry, a stunning development. 5 people, including 2 doctors, charged in connection with the actor's fatal ketamine overdose.
The desperation that led Perry to these individuals was not met with help, as it should have been from the doctors, but instead it was met with exploitation. Exploitation by those who should have guided him toward help. This betrayal of trust is at the heart of this tragedy.
Federal prosecutors allege that 5 people used Matthew Perry as a blank check, and instead of taking care of his well-being and health, they saw him as a quick buck in selling drugs.
The defendants also include Jasveen Sangha, who prosecutors say is also known as the ketamine queen of North Hollywood, and Dr. Salvador Plasencia, or Dr. P, of Santa Monica. Plasencia and Sangha are both charged with conspiracy to distribute ketamine, distribution of ketamine, and other charges. The 3 other defendants include Perry's 59-year-old live-in assistant, Kenneth Iwamasa, who pleaded guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to distribute ketamine, causing death, and admitted repeatedly injecting Perry with ketamine without medical training, including performing multiple injections on Perry the day he died. Perry's family releasing a statement saying, "We were and still are heartbroken by Matthew's death, but it has helped to know that law enforcement has taken this case very seriously. We look forward to justice taking its course." Last October, Perry posted this photo of himself in his hot tub wearing headphones. And just days later, Perry was found dead in his Pacific Palisades home. Law enforcement sources say that same assistant, Iwamasa, discovered the 54-year-old floating and unresponsive in that jacuzzi.
Requesting 2 additional units and a supervisor respond to Bluesdale Drive.
According to an autopsy report, Perry died from acute effects of ketamine. Drowning and coronary artery disease were listed as contributing factors.
This isn't fun, you know. You're very nice, and being interviewed by you is great, but like, it's not fun to talk about this stuff. I don't like talking about it, but I know it's going to help people to talk about it. I know the book is going to help people.
Perry, take 1.
In 2022, Perry opened up to my colleague Diane Sawyer about his addiction and his best-selling memoir, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing.
Addiction, the big terrible thing, is far too powerful for anyone to defeat alone. But together, one day at a time, we can beat it down.
Yeah. Your disease is just outside, just doing 1-arm push-ups, just waiting for you, waiting to get you alone. Because alone, you lose to the disease. And now I finally feel okay and feel like I've got some strength.
What does it mean to feel okay?
It means that I've developed some safety nets around this. You know.
But the federal investigation reveals that Perry was once again struggling with addiction in 2023, something prosecutors say the defendants took advantage of.
Matthew Perry sought treatment for depression and anxiety and went to a local clinic where he became addicted to intravenous ketamine. When clinic doctors refused to increase his dosage, he turned to unscrupulous doctors who saw Perry as a way to make quick money.
After learning about Perry's interest in ketamine, investigators say Plasencia contacted another doctor, Dr. Mark Chavez, who previously operated a ketamine clinic in order to obtain ketamine to sell to Perry. Investigators say they uncovered text messages between the 2 doctors in which they discussed how much to charge Perry for the ketamine, writing, "I wonder how much this moron will pay. Let's find out."
He also stated in text messages that he wanted to be Mr. Perry's sole source of supply. He wrote in a text message that he wanted to be Mr. Perry's, quote, go-to for drugs.
They allegedly charged Perry $2,000 for a ketamine vial worth just $12.
Over 2 months, from September to October 2023, they distributed approximately 20 vials of ketamine to Mr. Perry in exchange for $55,000 in cash. Defendant Plasencia saw this as an opportunity to profit off of Mr. Perry.
One of the other defendants was Eric Fleming, a broker who worked with Sangha and allegedly distributed the ketamine that led to Perry's death. Fleming allegedly wrote in a text message, quote, "I wouldn't do it if there wasn't a chance of me making some money for doing this." Prosecutors alleging the defendants knew what they were doing was wrong.
When they'd refer to the ketamine, they used coded language. They'd refer to it using terms such as, quote, Dr. Pepper, or quote, bots, or quote, cans. Also, defendants Plasencia and Chavez, as medical doctors, knew full well this was not the proper way to administer ketamine, and they even talked about that in their exchanges.
Ketamine is an FDA-approved controlled substance. It's a short-acting but powerful anesthetic that's also used off-label as an alternative therapy for depression. Allegedly, one reason Perry used it.
It's a great choice for an anesthetic, and for sedation. It affects memory and it affects, the patient's ability to process pain.
Ketamine is also used and abused recreationally.
Ketamine misuse is increasing, and it is fairly common, and we see it in the hospital often. While this drug may be considered safer than some other drugs that are out there on the street, people don't realize how habit-forming it can be.
Patients taking ketamine therapy should be supervised and administered to by a healthcare professional, something prosecutors say did not happen with Perry in the days before his death.
When people start using ketamine recreationally and they're not being monitored, that's when they're opening themselves up to a whole host of issues and problems and dangers.
I'm Chandler. I make jokes when I'm uncomfortable.
Well, I loved Chandler. I loved the show, and I also knew, remember this, because it's going to be the best time of your life. And I knew it.
Perry skyrocketed to fame on the hit TV series Friends, and it's impossible to imagine anyone else playing Chandler Bing.
Okay, who wants light cheese and who wants dark cheese?
Other than the handsome, hilarious, and quick-witted Matthew Perry, cast when he was just 24.
Someone at work ate my sandwich.
Well, what did the police say?
Sarcastic, charming, and that comic timing. For 10 seasons on Friends, for multiple generations of viewers, Perry could make it all look so easy. But for him, for decades, nothing was easy.
It's the time I should have been the toast of the town. I was in a dark room meeting with nothing but drug dealers and completely alone for months.
Behind the scenes, addiction and alcohol and later prescription painkillers would repeatedly fling Perry into a decades-long hellscape, leading to extreme fluctuations in his weight and countless months in rehab. Perry said he went through detox roughly 65 times. Castmates coming to his aid during dark times, like Jennifer Aniston.
Jenny, yeah.
And she says, "We know you were drinking."
Yeah, imagine how scary a moment that was. And I said, how? I thought I was hiding it so well. And she said, we can smell it, we can smell it. But I wasn't in a position to stop, and that's what addiction is.
He hoped his experiences would help others.
When someone calls you for help and says, "I'm in trouble," what do you want to say to them first?
I say, come over, let's talk. A guy coming up to me and saying, can you help me stop drinking? And I can say yes and follow up and help the person. And I see the light come on in their eyes, and I have the answer because of stumbling so much. I can help them. So
Saving each other.
saving each other, because he eventually figures out that he's saving me too.
Late today, the so-called ketamine queen and one of the doctors, Plasencia, pleading not guilty, and Plasencia released on a $100,000 bond. How did your client feel about being lumped in with somebody called the ketamine queen of Los Angeles?
Well, he doesn't appreciate the association by any stretch of the imagination. At the end of the day, Dr. Plasencia was providing medical treatment to Mr. Perry. He was operating, in good faith under what he believed was his duty under the Hippocratic Oath.
Dr. Plasencia is facing up to 120 years in federal prison, while the ketamine queen faces life in prison for the allegations against them.
In recent years, other drug-related celebrity deaths have led authorities to prosecute the people who supplied the drugs, including rapper Mac Miller's fatal overdose of cocaine, alcohol, and counterfeit oxycodone that contained fentanyl. 2 of the men who provided him with the fentanyl were later convicted of distributing the drug. On Thursday in Los Angeles, investigators vowed to crack down on the drug suppliers.
By filing these extensive and serious charges, we are sending a clear message. If you are in the business of selling dangerous drugs, we will hold you accountable for the deaths that you cause.